All right, the last speaker for tonight is going to be Wesley Sherwood. I'll say it again, Wesley Sherwood. And his speech is, How Did I Get Here? And Wesley has lived in Florida for several years. There are many aspects of Florida that he loves, such as the beaches and the warm weather. Tonight, he wants to share with you something about Florida that he does not like. He will share with you why this aspect of Florida is not something to be proud of, and what you want to do is to stop Florida from being number one. Join me in welcoming Wesley Sherwood. How did I get here? Wesley.
At a recent Toastmasters meeting, I was asked, what is my earliest memory? My earliest memory was at 2 years old, and that moment will forever change my life. Fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests, do you know what is aquaphobia? Aquaphobia is the fear of water. Now, in my case, at the age of 2 years old, I was playing on the banks of an irrigation canal and hanging out with my family. I had a little toy truck that I was playing with back and forth, and my truck slipped out of my hand and went to the edge of that irrigation canal. I did an assessment, and I thought to myself, my truck is close enough where I can still reach it without too late. I fell right into the irrigation canal. I fell right in head first and went straight to the bottom. And as I was going down close to the bottom, I looked up and I could see the light coming down from above, and it looked really radiant. As I looked down, I saw the sand at the bottom. And when I reached the bottom, I can feel the grains of the sand underneath my feet and my bottom. And I thought to myself, it sure looks nice and clean at the bottom of this canal versus being at the very top of the canal looking down into the dark, murky water. The rest of what happened that moment, I completely forgot. I spent the rest of my life dealing with aquaphobia, which promoted me to have a very, very deep fear of water. And it was so bad that there were times when I was just afraid to stand underneath a waterfall, or I was afraid of standing underneath my shower directly to take a bath. I remember telling people that I had aquaphobia, and the first response they had is, Wesley, you're from Jamaica. How can you be afraid of water? There's water everywhere in Jamaica. There's the rivers, there's the ocean. You should be a great swimmer. And yes, they are right. There are many great swimmers in Jamaica, but for every great swimmer in Jamaica, there's guaranteed to be 3 or 4 other people that are terrified of water. Reason being, they had a bad experience with water, and now they're afraid to go back in the water. My mother is a fine example of that. When I was a child, she would tell me right away, stay away from the water. Don't go where the water goes higher than your waist. If you go to that place, you will not come back. I remember when I was a young girl, I went into the ocean. And when I was in the ocean, I tried to swim and I went to the bottom and I came up and I went to the bottom several more times till finally somebody was able to get me out of that water. So I was always careful when I went out. But as a child, I always had this interest in learning how to swim because I saw how much fun all my other friends were having. I finally convinced my mother to sign me up to go to the YMCA. The night before I went to the YMCA, I filled the bathtub up with water and I would stick my head in there and hold my breath for as long as I could. I was up to a whole minute at one point, and I thought to myself, I'm ready to learn how to swim because I can hold my breath underwater. The following day, I went to the YMCA and the instructor said to me, stick your head underneath the water and hold your breath. So I did just like I did at home. I stuck my face down in the water and held my breath. And the instructor came over to me and he said, no man, stick your head underneath the water and hold your head underneath there. And at that moment, I thought to myself, 2 thoughts. One, I felt my impending doom coming closer and closer to me. The second thing I thought was, if I don't die underneath this water, this guy's dead. Fortunately for him and myself, we both survived. He held me so long underneath the water that the only thing I could do was say some words that I will not repeat tonight. And then I continued on to the locker, grabbed my clothes, and I never went back to the YMCA. Several years later, in 2010, my daughter, Kaylani, was born. And we moved to Florida in 2003. At that point, she was 2 years old. And my coworker said to me, "Does your daughter know how to swim?" I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, there's water everywhere here in Florida." I said to them, "Well, right now I actually feel like I'm drowning because of how humid it is here in Florida." "But seriously, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, you know, a lot of kids drown here in Florida." So I did my research. I looked up. I realized that 3 to 4 classrooms of children drown every year in Florida. I learned that children between the ages of 1 and 4, the leading cause of death is through drowning. I also learned that there are drown-proof classes that can help these children. And because of the amount of children that die here in Florida from drowning, Florida actually leads the country in the amount of deaths by drowning. So I signed my daughter up for a drown-proof class. And when I did, I went and sat there and I watched the first time as the instructor took her and put her underneath the water. And I literally clutched myself. I couldn't move. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do because, one, I wanted her to learn how to swim. I did not want her to learn what is aquaphobia. And two, if I went in that water, now there'll be 2 of us that have to save in there because I can't swim. But anyway, my daughter was able to learn how to swim and she became a really good swimmer. And if there's anything I'd like you to remember tonight, it's that if you have friends, family member, or neighbors that have young children, please have them sign up for a drown-proof class so they don't have to add to the list of children that die every year here in Florida from drowning. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you.